The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Sovereign Futures podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor. And this podcast, I kindly remind you, is a venue of sharing, of contribution, of contributing different minds, different hearts, different leadership styles, and different, authors, just great human beings that their contribution helps you be more sovereign, helps us all remember our sovereignty, and helps us all not only remember it, but take action upon it. Nowadays, with what's going on collectively in the planet, in so many layers of it. To be sovereign is no longer a cute word or a spiritual word or a word for a movement or our economic party, not even political. Sovereignty is something we gotta reclaim as souls. This is something we gotta reclaim as human beings, taking full responsibility for and of our creation and the creation of our future. I really believe that it's all within. I'm a strong believer of self-reliance and self-resilience, and I tend to invite people to my podcast, incredible people that are doing great service in the world, that actually not only understand sovereignty, but in their own right, they are embodying it, serving others through it, and living it. So welcome again to a new podcast. Today I have a great guest. But before that, I want to remind you that we have an incredible class that is evergreen, that is always open for you. It's all about sacred geometry, quantum healing, and it's called the codes, the Futuring Codes of A. It's sacred geometry created to help us be aware of what type of futures we're designing: dark, bright, brilliant, dim, and the uniqueness of this class that is evergreen, you can always join, is that it was a co-creation between me, that I've been creating something called the Sacred Geometry Codes of A for many, many years. An incredible soul frequency singer, one of the best in the world, Grace Terry, and an extraordinary musician, intuitive. He's been creating music for film, for documentaries, for thousands of albums. He's an incredible, they're just incredible musicians, and all aiming consciousness and frequency. And the first thing that we did in this class that is different than the other ones, every sacred geometry piece has at least 11 minutes of music that matches the frequency. So the doors are always open. We always offer payment plans. We always offer support for you to join. The current students that are in that program, they are raving about it. They love the energy. They love the frequency, and especially what it does to our psyche. So that's one of the self-promotions that I do. And why do I do self-promotion? Because why not? Number one. And number two, because this is a philanthropic podcast. We really are not paid by anyone. We're not sponsored by anyone. I wanted to keep it that way. I have been approached now by other people that they want to sponsor, or they want me to share about their products, etc. I may do that after we arrive to the 100th episode, maybe the 100th episode. Right now is the time that people are beginning to get to know more about us. I'm such a firm believer on organic marketing, on word by mouth, like, mouth by mouth, like word of mouth. I think that's how you say it, mouth by mouth. It's like a kiss, but word by mouth, kind of a promotion. So any time that you all share our podcast, download our podcast, leave us a feedback or share it with others, it helps us, since we are, my company is the one taking care of this, the La Flor Teachings. Plus we have support from a media company called Ascend Media that is helping us edit the podcast so you can have the best quality of podcast for you. So with that said and that promotion, I want to introduce you to my incredible guest. She's truly, I think she's really like, how they say that they are extraterrestrials. I think she is a higher self terrestrial. I've never heard that term, but so there's a fascination of people with aliens and extraterrestrials. I'm fascinated by people that are embodied here on the planet, because this is a planet where we came to live as human beings and create an experience. So I'm all in for sci-fi. I'm all in for the spiritual things. I've been serving my community as a practical spiritual teacher and a spiritual student for almost now 20 years. But when I find someone that is deeply connected to Earth and to the human body and to just being a good human being, those are the leaders I admire. So let me introduce you to my guest. My beautiful guest, her name is Rivka Worth. She thrives on bringing humans together in ceremonial dance, where freedom, connection, and transformation are individually and collectively embodied in this dance. Rivka is a healer, a visionary, and teacher. She's also a futurist. She has journeyed the darkness and crafted a path in collaboration with spirit in service of higher truth for humankind. Rivka Worth is a dancer, certified in Gabrielle Roth's 5 rhythms, teacher, certified yoni mapping and repatterning practitioner, somatic coach, certified futuring principles facilitator, writer, mother, artist. She's currently studying Bonnie Bainbridge's somatic movement, educator practitioner certification, the body mind centering. In 2020, Rivka birthed the seed of sovereignty, ecosomatics. That sounds so amazing. To serve the collective in our rise to wholeness in co-creation with the natural world. Rivka's work reflects a lifetime career of facilitating dance and movement. She has developed numerous workshops and programs supporting diverse populations to connect with themselves through dance, movement, and the natural world. All her work includes and welcomes people of diversity. Rivka is devoted to listening to country. And when I say to country, it's not only country music. Country is a term they have in Australia that refers to nature, to the land, through practicing deep listening within. This is my beautiful guest, Rivka Worth. I've had the privilege to know her now for a couple of years. She's a sister, an ally, a friend, and most important, an incredible embodied woman that truly wants to bring this life, the sacred dance of life, more into the world, especially right now that we're in social distance, that we are like with masks. Not all of them. I just found out today, I don't know when you're going to hear this recording, but that Florida literally just announced that it's COVID free, mask free. It's all optional, no passport vaccines, no nothing. So that's a sovereign state right there. So with that said, my beloved Rivka, welcome. Let's talk about everything dance, everything sacred, and share with us, first of all, where are you right now, and how are you, not enduring, but how are you going through all these changes that life has birthed for all of us in humanity? Welcome, my love.
Thank you. Wow, what a beginning. So much in what you said already. I'm in Melbourne, which is known as Naarm by the First Nations people, which is in Australia. And we're just heading into winter, so it's very misty this morning. And I'm in a really beautiful place that I moved in just before the pandemic started, which I'm so grateful for. So I'm surrounded by trees and nature, and which is just what I love. And it's a beautiful property to be on. I've never been introduced as an alien before. That's so cool. That's it's beautiful because I've often I tried to find that balance between feeling so connected to the stars, yet very much earthed here, and my work being so much about groundedness and earthing and bringing people back into their bodies through the connection to the ground. So
Yes.
it's an interesting place to be working between those two realms.
Yeah, and again, no, it's not like you imagine if other species of other planets look at Earth, we are the aliens for them. But I love that you are like an embodied terrestrial, right? Like you are connected with the whole, you are connected with the cosmos, but you are here. So I want to hear a little bit about that, because right now with all that has happened and all the social distance, tell us a little bit, what is the therapy that you give through dance? What is it, and how does that help us?
Well, both dance and movement has been in my life forever, as long as I can remember. And also being in nature. As a kid, I was always outside, grew up, a lot in the bush, and spent a lot of time talking to the plants and the trees and the rocks. And I thought that was pretty normal, but I forgot about that. And later as an adult, when I went back to some of these places, and I remembered that these places called me back, actually. And in dreams, and when I went back, it was like, oh my goodness, I talked to these rocks, these beings, and I talked to these trees, and I know them, and they missed me, and I'd completely forgotten that part of my life. So then that really came strongly into my dance practice, and from that's how Seed of Sovereignty was born, in the sense of how moving in nature can support us to remember who we are, that we've strayed so far as a species from our connection to the natural world, which is really everything here on Earth. Like the natural world provides everything. Everything we have has come from nature. Even, our cars, our clothes, like everything, the resource of nature has made all the things. If you look around your room now, everything you have has come from nature somehow. And I think we forget that. We think nature is just going out, into we call it the bush. I don't know what you call it there. We have a joke about the bush. But yeah, we forget, I think, that we're resourced by the natural world. And when we come back to that, we remember that we have a place here, that we're part of that. You mentioned the sacred geometry with the codes, and nature is sacred geometry, and we are sacred geometry, in ourselves. And we're in this symbiotic relationship with nature all the time. And we live together, in terms of how we breathe, and how we're resourced, and how we're made up just biologically. So when we spend time in nature, moving in our bodies, dancing and somatic practice, that physicality of embodying nature, and remembering that we're made of nature, and we are part of nature, just like we're a little part of the bigger sacred geometry, that we have a place, that we belong. We that struggle of how do I fit in, and what's my role, and all of that stuff, it just disappears, because you don't need that. A tree doesn't ask what its role is. It just has its place in the forest. So nature reminds us that sense of belonging can help us to be more present with who we are, and less searching for who we think we're meant to be.
And when you're sharing this connection, right now with what is occurring, why do you think it's more important than ever to bring embodiment practices, somatic practices right now to the people, to dance more, and to bring these practices right now, for example, with the social distance? I want you to tell me the challenges and the problems of not doing like the dance and the embodiment work. Tell us first the challenges and problems that you have seen.
Well, both in individuals and in the practice, I guess.